Welcome back, listeners. This is a special episode. This is the Inspired Writer Collective podcast 50th episode. So we're going to take some time today to take some walks down memory lane and also talk about our vision for the future. I am Elizabeth, and I'm joined here with Stephanie. And you guys may not know this, but this is Sarge, and he pops into a number of these recordings because he's obsessed with podcasting. Sometimes it's just his tail, like coming along the part of the desk or, an ear that sticks up. But he is often here with me when I'm recording, either with Stephanie or with guests. So this is Sarge. Stephanie, it's hard to believe that we're here at this point. It feels like not even that long ago that we started the business side of the Inspired Writer Collective, and then a week later decided, hey, let's start putting up some podcast episodes. And we really didn't have a clear plan of what that was going to look like. Do you want to talk about like those early days?
Yeah, it's just so amazing when I think about how we're sitting here at episode 50 and just jumping in without any real guidance. We were just like, hey, let's just start the podcast episode and see where we go. And our first episode is very indicative of that, where we're just reflecting and talking. And interestingly enough, that episode is in, like, if you look at our, behind the scenes information, it's in it's in kind of the top 10 of episodes that's been downloaded, and which is kind of fun. People have wanted to get to know us even back at episode 1 and have, many have followed us through, and every day we have new listeners, and that's so exciting to see. And there's just been so much learning and just growing in our own identities as writers, and then contributing to the conversations out there with writers. It's just every day. Yes, this is the Inspired Writer Collective, and it is inspiring to see where we've been and where we're going, and to think that we have this whole bank of resources for writers to pull from and explore and hear from different writers. And yeah, it's exciting. How are you feeling?
It's just so surreal to like think about it. We had this idea and this like just deep understanding that community is really important around writing, and that there was a void of community, particularly post-COVID, when things had to become virtual or just, groups stopped existing totally. And while in full transparency, we have struggled to recreate that on the business side of things, with our time to write sessions. We had multiple a week, and it was hard to get people involved in that. Now we're doing a special thing in November where we just have 1 hour a week, and we've had people showing up, and that's really cool. But what I've seen through the podcast, even though things have not gone how we expected with like our Mighty Networks community, is that community is important and is present, and we are still building it despite that. Like, I really feel such a bond to our podcast community, not just, the people that listen and comment, but also even the guests that we've started to have. Like, listener, you probably aren't aware of this, but like I continue to keep up conversations with a number of our previous guests. We're like, I'm checking in with them, seeing how things are going, what's the new project, following up, but based off of things that they said while they were on the podcast. And so it's been so cool to be a part of the writer community in this way, and also a part of the podcast community in a broader sense. And just creating that space, hopefully, for people to kind of sit in on these conversations and join us. I probably should have had that quote ready from my hairdresser. Shout out to Becca, who now listens to the podcast, who is not a writer. And, but she was cutting my hair the other week and talking about how she loves podcasts and didn't know that I had a podcast. And she started listening and then sent me some texts about just how informative certain episodes were and how fun it was, and just the casual conversations, and how even if you're not a writer, even if you're just kind of looking for a good hang, you might find something here. And that was just so reaffirming for me
Mhm.
to know that like our authenticity is coming across, our interest, our passion for what we're talking about or what we're doing, the way that we support others with our, the guest interviews and trying to figure out their stories and highlight their voices. Um, I mean, I wouldn't take back one single minute of it. Like, I absolutely have loved just the experience of podcasting and developing that skill set. Shout out to Stephanie because she is our tech guru. You guys don't get to see her as much like on the episodes because I do the bulk of the guest interviews. But y'all, Stephanie is working so hard behind the scenes because she edits every episode and make sure it gets all uploaded. She also writes our weekly emails that go along with the episode and the episode descriptions. And so shout out to you, Stephanie. Like it's been so fun to do this project with you and have this shared vision of, what we want it to become. Because we started with like PowerPoint presentations, right?
Yep,
To kind of
yep.
guide our conversation. We're still kind of getting our sea legs, figuring it out. And now literally like right before we hit record, I was like, hey, should we just hit record? And Stephanie's like, yeah, let's
Yeah,
do it. Which is such
exactly.
growth from you, Stephanie, because I know we went from, the PowerPoint version to having lists of things to talk about to now we're just more comfortable and can just jump in and know that important conversation will naturally come out.
Well, and that's what's become so much fun for me is just seeing the evolution of just being more comfortable. And, I haven't always wanted to be on camera or on stage or any of the above. And I've just really discovered that podcasting is so much fun. And if you're out there, listener, and thinking about starting one, just really try it. Jump in and see if you just have something you love to talk about. I mean, we've gotten so much feedback about how people love our casual style. They love the fact that it's a conversation. They feel like they're inviting friends into their, wherever they are, their car, their living room, their, daily cleaning or whatever, however you, listen to podcasts or even the viewers on YouTube. It's interesting because it's kind of cool because we have both sets of, data, and I've been, geeking out a little bit this week looking at the data because I like looking at that stuff. And it's been fun to see that, with our podcast, like the first month there were 10 downloads and then the second month there were 74. It's just, we've had this, really cool, steady climb of people engaging. And that's what's really cool to see. And it's just continued to grow with our reach. We've been, downloaded at least once on every continent except Antarctica. So,
So if you're
I'm not sure.
traveling there, please do us a
Right.
favor, download an episode.
I'm not even sure that's in Buzzsprout's, data piece with the world map. But if it is, we'd love to, connect with anyone who's traveling there. But I mean, and that's just so cool to see. And then all the cities, not just in the US, but just worldwide. And, having some international cities like Frankfurt, Germany at the top of our list of places where people are downloading from. And that's so cool. And shout out to listeners there. Um, and it's just really neat to see how people are engaging. And what's also interesting is there's such a cool balance between, episodes that you and I do ourselves and the guest episodes. And there's kind of an equal balance of where people are listening or what they're interested in. And that's cool too. And I love the diversity of voices we've had on. And, listener, if you haven't gotten a chance to dive into the wide variety of topics we've covered, take a look at our, past episodes because there's just so much, whether it's writing craft, book marketing, our book club, which of course, like I just crack up because our most popular episode of all is episode 14, Why We Couldn't Finish Demon Copperhead. And
Oh,
I don't know why it makes me crack up, but I just laugh because I just think like, I mean, it's a little bit of a clickbaity title, but at the same time, like we legitimately could not finish it. And I still see people reading the book and I still see the book. I mean, I think there's even a movie coming out now because the newer editions of the book have a, picture on the front and, all this stuff. And it's just so interesting to see how people are engaging with that one. I mean, I think overall that one had like 154 interactions, whether between YouTube or downloading and but it's also fun
Well,
because people get to hear us and connect with us
yeah.
too.
I think what makes that one so funny for us is that we thought it was a bust. We couldn't finish the book. We were like, "Oh my gosh!" I'm like texting Stephanie, a week or two ahead of recording, and like, I just can't finish. And she was struggling too, and so we agreed we were going to flip to the end and try to see if like there was somewhere like in the middle or the end where we could get back into the story. And we were just like, okay, well, I guess we have to put out an episode, so we'll record something. But we thought it was a bust, like to have a book club book that we literally could not get past like page 60 on out
Yep.
of the like 300, 400 pages. So for me at least, that's what made that one so funny that like, oh, that's the one that took off. How interesting.
Well, yeah, no, it's interesting. And the other interesting thing from looking at our, going back and looking at some of our episodes is, the ones that are standing out are of course the ones that we've talked about how much we believe in, like why community is important. The importance of reading to help improve your craft. I mean, just so many things. And so we know that we're, reaching the audience that we want to reach. And I think like we've talked about is looking forward is really looking at building our community in a different way. I think we're
Yeah.
discovering with this new just, sending out a Zoom link with our email newsletter for the Monday co-writing sessions where we just hop on and all write together is really cool to see, and to see the number of people who showed up even just this past Monday. And, we've gotten emails from others who are expressing interest and saying like, hey, like I want to do this. And, maybe there's that piece of taking away the pressure of like, oh, you're going to have to hop on and share and talk and and it's like, no, this is literally like hop on. We're just writing together.
Yeah.
And
No
that's,
prompts, no
yep,
nothing. Work on your
yep.
own project, do whatever feels right for you. Have some accountability if you want in the chat with stating what you plan to work on, set the intention, and then, yeah, I think it's great. And it's so interesting too, like the way the business side has evolved, like we spoke about just a minute ago, where we started with the Mighty Networks platform and it just really never took off the way we had hoped and it being cost prohibitive. We've scratched that and we've taken all of our courses and everything that we were offering on that space and now have integrated it in with just our emails and everything. So in one sense, it's like, oh, well, we didn't end up building necessarily the community as we envisioned it. But one thing that's come out of this first year of the business and the podcast that I feel super proud of is the memoir course. I'm
Mm-hmm.
currently running, the second iteration of it. I expanded it from its original like 4-week form to now a 6-week form. And frankly, I think it could be 8 weeks. Even which is the content I currently
Mm-hmm.
have. And it's also been cool to bring in these like memoir themed guests that we had within our kind of series that we did in October with a bunch of memoirists in their various forms. And so I feel super proud with the community we're building specifically around memoir and supporting memoir writers. And I just feel really, really proud of the way that that's continued to develop. And I know, Stephanie, you're working pretty hard on figuring out what kind of courses you want to offer, whether they're going to be onesie, twosie, kind of special interest categories at a time. That's not like a recurring thing that's always offered. Or whether you're going to pick some sort of specific area to focus on. And that'll just be really cool as we go forward to see how that looks. I know going forward, I plan to offer the memoir course again sometime this spring, depending on like interest level and stuff, and when I get enough interest to run the course again. It'll be run again February, March timeframe. Um,
Well, and I think listener really, I mean, shout out to Elizabeth here with the work and the effort and the energy and everything that she puts into the memoir course. It really is an absolutely outstanding course. And if you're thinking about writing a memoir, you're curious about it, you could just literally have a seed of an idea. And working with Elizabeth, you will find that she will take that seed of an idea and help you frame it into your core message, into what you want to write. And I think that, it's such a gift that Elizabeth has. And I'm sure if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that just in the way, she's interviewed the guests who are, memoir writers. And I do think it's such a cool part of the growth of, the Inspired Writer Collective to have this focused amount around memoir writers and people's stories, because that's really the foundational piece that, brought us together, brought this whole vision together, was just really championing people with their stories and getting the stories out there, because there's so much that, we can learn from other people's stories, learn about ourselves through those stories, whatever it is you're working on. And yeah, I mean, I'm still exploring what, I'm going to be offering. And as Elizabeth said, I've been doing a lot of the behind the scenes, everything you can't see. And that's been, talk about a learning curve. I mean, I did not know how to do any of this when we started. It's literally been like, oh, I'll just figure it out. And because Elizabeth's been like, okay, I'm doing my course, and that's, and it's really nice because we balance each other out with, our skill sets and our interests and what we're doing. And that's one of the coolest things about this partnership that we have, is that we do have this balance, but along with the shared common vision. And that's been what's also been just so fun, is just to have that continue to grow. And, we laugh a lot. We have a lot of fun. I mean, these podcasts are fun. We're just, flying by the seat of our pants right now, which, quite honestly, listener, it makes it a lot more fun than having to read off a script or have a plan. I mean, when I think back to those early episodes where we had the PowerPoint, I mean, I don't know. I probably don't even want to go back and listen to them, because they probably sound really like academic and, very like proper. And I don't know about you, listener, but I love listening to podcasts where I just am feeling like I'm talking, listening to a great conversation or eavesdropping on a great conversation.
Totally. And we have some fun things laying ahead. So this is the 50th episode. We're going to go through, I believe, 52. So a full year, every Monday, you have had a new episode. And then we are taking a well-deserved break. Okay, guys? We are taking the month of December off. And by off, I mean, Stephanie's not writing weekly emails. We're not releasing a weekly episode. We'll still be recording stuff, on the back end that we'll release in our next season. But we're going to take a break to transition into our next season of the podcast. You can expect to see, similar format going forward, where we sort of stagger guest episodes with episodes and updates from Stephanie and I. Stephanie's even playing around with the idea of having like a special series that either appears on YouTube or maybe appears on a different day of the week or something like that, around the young adult genre. So, there's definitely some fun things moving forward. I've been networking with a number of other writers. I have a yoga instructor who does writing with her poses and prose that I'll have coming on. I have a political thriller fiction writer that I'll be interviewing soon. I have a woman who is publishing her own poetry book, but also established a publishing company. Let's see what else I got here. I've got a guy who had an incident with marijuana when he was traveling, and he wrote his memoir about the struggles with that, and trying to get into the US and all the complications that caused for him, and now his advocacy for decriminalizing marijuana. And so there's just so much great stuff that's coming down the pipeline. So I thank you for your listenership thus far. And also, we
Mhm.
are working so hard to make sure that we continue to bring really engaging topics and discussions. We'll continue the book club episodes because clearly, based off of the downloads, that's something people are still very interested in. Um, and please, if you guys have certain topics that you want to see, that you would love to hear our take on, or want us to find, an expert or guest to talk about, we are all ears. Shoot us an email, hello at inspired writer collective .com, or you can comment on, if you're watching this on YouTube. This we do because we love it and because we want to inspire others to brave this path, because it's not easy writing your
Mhm.
story or incorporating your personal experience into a fictional story, especially as a first-time writer, and even once you've done it for the first time, like, hearing people talk about how they then have to get into their second book after writing their first book, and that transition, and how some things are easier, but some things are harder. We are just here to support in whatever way we can, and we love doing this, and we hope you love listening.
Absolutely. I know I love showing up, and like you just said, we love showing up for these times when we get to talk and share ideas and, hopefully inspire you with some little nugget that you can take away from. And definitely, connect with us, join our email list. The links are all in the show notes. And we do read every email that is replied to, that's sent to us, and we take into consideration all voices, and sometimes there are those that don't fit, but because we want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of everything we're sharing with you, because it's really important to us that we bring you value, that we maybe make you laugh, or we show you that it's possible to do this, because both of us are, introverted and definitely prefer to be at home with our notebooks and our books and our animals and our people. And so, if that resonates with you, you can absolutely show up. And we've had, guests who've commented like, hey, if they're doing it, like, I can do it. And I think we've learned just that the consistency of it has been so huge for us. And I feel like it's trickled over into, our writing and our vision for ourselves as writers. And we hope that we're bringing that to you, listener.
And always, we thank you for using any of the affiliate links that we include, which are largely books that we mentioned that you can purchase on Amazon that go to support the podcast. And what do you think, Stephanie? Do you have is there certain episodes that stick out to you as some of your favorites from this last year? Like for you versus like the data?
Um, I think that it's really hard to narrow it down, just because there are just so many to choose from. When I think about it, I definitely think just being able to share the ideas and just going through the process of doing the podcast and just saying like, hey, like, this is what we want to talk about, and then running with it. And also, I think, the other cool thing is that, like, yes, I was looking at the data this week, but we don't drown ourselves in the data every week. Honestly, we don't really look at it every week, because, I think that that's one of the, like, things that people get so bogged down in, is they think they have to reach certain metrics or certain levels. And we just hit 750 downloads, and we're not even a year old. And I know some people probably hit that way before this, but that's like a huge celebration. Like, 750 ears, whether they've listened to an entire episode or part of it. That's huge to me in, less than a year's time of the age of the podcast. And I think that that's kind of the fun piece is like, if we're, touching one person somewhere, that's what's most important. And that's what's so cool. And like I shared, like, our podcast has just had this steady growth, and that's cool. Like, it doesn't have to be, a big thing. It's just we're showing up, we're sharing our ideas, we love what we're doing, and that's the part that I love is just, contributing to the conversation.
And I'm so grateful for like the trust that our guests have bestowed upon us to allow us to help them, get their voice out and tell their stories. When I refer, specific episodes to people to kind of like give them an idea of what the podcast is like, I find myself often sharing the episode with Lena Abarafi because I remember just laughing so much as she and I were recording that episode. And she's one of those people that I've kept up with post recording and have like an idea of what's going on in her life and her writing journey. And then another one, and of course I'm picking the ones that like seem to hit more on the emotions. The other one that always stands out to me is the one I did with Catherine DeMonte, and that's the one I think I cried during, got a little choked up. And so it's like we have the whole full range of emotions. One was more about the actual like process of writing and finding an agent and getting published. The other one's about doing all the shadow work and dealing with all the feelings that come up as you're pouring your heart out onto a page. So it's both the how-to and just a very deep, emotional, introspective process of writing and creating a world or recreating your world. And those are some of the ones that really stand out to me. And I find myself sending the links to people over and over again of like, oh, well, check this one out. This one's super fun. Or this one shows you like the intensity of writing and what you're really getting into and what kind of support you may want to have, in your back pocket as you do this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just been such an incredible journey. And when we started this whole podcasting process, we didn't even really have guests as a part of our vision. It's just naturally evolved and grown, which has also been really cool to watch too. So, if you're thinking about starting a podcast and you're thinking about having guests, it takes a little bit of time, but then it really becomes a natural part of the growth when people start recognizing the existence of your podcast, that you have guests on, and that's really fun. And it's fun too what we make sure that we share with our guests tools that they can use to help share, and that's become a new thing we've added, and we're going to be reaching out to previous guests with those resources to help them better get their voices out, because that's of course part of it, and that's part of our vision is it's not just always about us talking, but giving a stage for other voices and getting people's stories out there in the world.
Well, it looks like we did it. We did 50 episodes without a single break, a single week off. Somehow we've come up with topics or found guests or whatnot to do 50. And I'm just so excited for the rest and rejuvenation and also the chance to come back in January with our brand new season and all the brand new voices we get to hear from and new topics we get to discuss. And it's been quite a ride, and I've loved every minute of it.
Yes, thank you, listener. And again, connect with us. Email us at hello@inspiredwritercollective.com. Join our email list, links in the comments. Connect with us on social media. Find us on YouTube. And, we look forward to continuing to grow this community, and join us on Monday afternoons in November to get some writing done. If you aren't already on our email list, that's how you'll get the Zoom link. So make sure you connect with us that way. We'd love to connect with you and have you join in the conversation.